Hey everyone, my name is Joe Spinoza, and I just wanted to film this intro before I post my interview with Kirk Cousins, just to say thank you so much to Kirk, Julie, and the entire Cousins family. I can't express how grateful I am that Kirk took time out of his busy life to talk with me and, you know, share, his thoughts and acknowledge, probably his biggest fan. So um, just had to say that. Uh, for those of you who don't know, I have followed Kirk since he was in college, and I've supported him through Washington and now Minnesota. And he really is a world class person. He's class personified as a person, as a player. He's a role model for me, and I think for any young person, whether they're a football player or just an everyday person, the way he goes about his life, his business, it's really remarkable, and I'm so thankful. I'm still on cloud nine, and I just can't uh, even begin to express my gratitude. So I wanted to put this out there before I get to the interview, and also excuse my nerves. I'm usually someone who can handle himself in front of the camera. I'm a little bit rusty. I used to do a podcast, but when I was talking to Kirk, I got a little bit nervous, as you would expect. I watched it back and I realized I said the phrase, way too many times. And that was my filler word. So it's something I have to live with, but it's such an amazing opportunity I had, and I'm just beyond grateful. So I don't want to keep this too long, but I wanted to put this in front just to give everyone a heads up and give a thanks to Kirk again, because you made me very, very happy, and I can't thank you enough. So without further ado, here is my interview with Kirk Cousins, quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings and my favorite athlete. Hey everyone, my name's Joe Spinoza. This is my debut YouTube post, and I can't think of a better way to kick off my channel and my football commentary journey than with one of my idols and role models, Kirk Cousins, quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings.
Thrilled to be here, Joe. Have been able to see the way you followed me for the last decade plus, and it's an honor to meet you over Zoom and get the chance to speak with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep this, casual. Normally, I'm a type of person who never shuts up, and but I'm pretty, starstruck right now. For anyone who follows me on Twitter, you know that I am Kirk's biggest fan, and yeah, so I'm gonna get into it. And as a fan of yours, because I followed you from Michigan State to Washington to now Minnesota. And I told you I'm from Boston, and Tom Brady's my guy. And he is someone who takes care of his body, wants to play as long as he physically can. And I know you are very similar in that sort of approach. So do you see, God willing, your body, injuries? Are you the type of guy who says, I can do this, past 40?
It's hard for me to think that far down the road, because I do find that a year in the NFL feels like a lifetime. But it's really important to me that I'm able to walk away from football healthy, and that my quality of life post-football is as good as it is right now. And so that's something I take seriously, and want to take care of my body, whether I play 2 more years or 10 more years, just making sure that when I walk away, I'm in great physical shape and can, still play with my boys and do all the things I want to do when I'm retired. So hopefully it means I get to play a long time, but either way, I just want to be really healthy.
Yeah. Just wondering that because, that's part of my football fandom. I'm sorry. I'm just looking over at some of the questions I wrote down. So, I obviously put out a lot of, data in support of you, and a lot of, I think, smart football people, who know way more than I could ever have, high opinions of you, but there are some narratives, and they're, in my opinion, quite lazy. How do you feel, when you see that these kind of, win-loss record, Monday night football record, does it motivate you, or do you just ignore it?
I think it's good motivation. I think that as a quarterback, you'll always be connected to wins. The ball's in your hand, and as a quarterback, you got to win. And so, to the degree that we win, I'm probably going to get way too much credit and be told I'm better than I really am. And to the degree that we don't win, I'll probably carry more of the blame than I'd like to carry. But that just comes to the position of playing quarterback. I remember when I was in Washington, I would have a couple of coaches because this was a similar situation. I was in Washington, and they would say, "Kirk, those who know, and those who don't." And so their point was, it's the people that really understand the quarterback position that are evaluating it and are going to end up having the biggest say in your career. And it's okay if other people aren't as tuned in. And so I've kind of always carried that with me, but I'm hoping and expectant that before I'm done, we're going to win a lot of football games, and I'll be able to get far more praise than I deserve, if that makes sense.
It'll balance out because, you've earned a lot more than you've gotten so far. So you'll definitely deserve it. So just in terms of, the outlook of the team, obviously you have new coach, new GM, and I'm a big fan of Kwesi, especially his, analytical approach. And you have a prior relationship with Kevin O'Connell. How do you kind of see that meshing? Do you think, you'll have more freedom than you might have had, your previous years in Minnesota?
It remains to be seen. It's still pretty early in the process, but I agree with you that I think Kwesi is really sharp, has had good experience, and brings a great perspective to the job. And then Kevin, as the head coach, I think is a great football mind. And just as important as his role as the head coach is the staff that he's assembled. And I thought he did a great job, building an offensive staff around him, building a defensive staff around him. And I think Kevin and Kwesi will work really well together and be very collaborative to, kind of put the plan together of how this organization works. And I know the players, the locker room are excited to, get into OTAs and get to work and kind of see what it all looks like.
Yeah, and obviously you've made some additions and key retentions. Patrick Peterson announced he's coming back to that secondary room. And you got Zadarius Smith. I'm sure you're happy not having to face him in Green Bay. How do you feel about the moves you guys have made? And have you talked to other teammates, saying, we got a good feeling right now?
Yeah, I think it's also important to see who we've kept as well. The fact that Brian O'Neill got extended last year is a real win. Someone like Zadarius Smith being added is big. He's tough to go against in our division the last few years. And so to have him on our side is a great blessing. And, just being able to re-sign Patrick Peterson has been a real positive. So I feel great about the pieces. We got to stay healthy, and we've got to find a way when, we're in those close games at the end to find the inches that make the difference. But, there's no doubt that when you step into the locker room, you want to feel like you have the pieces in place to help you win. And I've been fortunate in all my years in Minnesota to feel like we do have those pieces.
Yeah. You mentioned, even if you're in a position to win, last year, obviously, sometimes, it fell apart. How do you feel? Like, how do you keep morale amongst the team and even keep your head up, in games that come down to a field goal or overtime? And you're so close, you are a couple of, flips of the ball from being 12-5, and, it's a totally different season. So how do you kind of just keep yourself ready to move on to the next game and, not look back on that, especially when you have multiple, heartbreaking losses?
I think it's kind of an encouragement that, hey, we lost some games, but man, we were right there. So we aren't that far. The difference between us missing the playoffs where we were and being 8-9, I think we finished, to being a team that can win a division and even get a bye maybe and be the 1 seed. I mean, it's not too far away, and so that's encouraging. But it's just talk in the sense that, hey, we didn't find those inches and we didn't win those games, and so until we do, it's just talk. And that's really where we as players have to find how to improve, how we as a unit can be better, so that the ball bounces our way in the final, 10 seconds or minute, and those games start to go our way.
Yeah, I want to kind of debunk a lot of the narratives that people kind of said. So I just want to ask you, just in terms of playing the quarterback position, obviously you take, and I put something out there that you've had, some of the most deep ball attempts in the league, and 12 touchdowns, no interceptions on passes more than 20 yards down the field. But how do you feel, that you've done in terms of taking care of the football while also, taking shots when you have to, and, kind of finding that happy medium of keeping your team in a position to fight for another series, another possession, while also, making plays?
Yeah, I think it's something I've improved on as I've played longer, which is people ask me, about my development. And as long as I feel like I'm improving, I'm encouraged about my development. And I think that's continued to happen. But as a rookie, I didn't want to be caught with the ball and taking sacks. And so I was throwing the ball into harm's way too many times. And I think my first 3.5 seasons in the NFL, you could look at my production and say I was pretty careless with the football. And I think that'd be a fair assessment. I think since then I've been much, much better, and about halfway through my fourth season, and then now going into my 11th, found a good balance where, I'm still aggressive, still able to be a playmaker and push the ball down the field, but at the same time, not be careless and not hurt our football team. So that's something that I've improved on and take great pride in, and know that it's an important aspect of winning. But it's something I'll always try to get better at too, because you want to be explosive, you want to be a playmaker, and you don't want to turn the ball over. And it can be difficult to be both at the same time, but something I definitely want to continue to improve upon.
We talked about this a bit, but if you and Aaron Rodgers are coming up with having similar problems of, let's just say, taking care of the ball too much, then I think that's, pretty good company to be in. And I just want to say, as a fan, and I've watched pretty much every game you've played in your career, your development in terms of taking fewer sacks, fewer fumbles, and fighting for first down, sometimes with your legs. There was a moment against Pittsburgh. People will remember the KJ Osborne touchdown, but there was a key third down with your legs that you got that kind of staved off the momentum for Pittsburgh. So, in terms of that development, what do you do in terms of your offseason preparation that gets you to improve every year? Because I feel like you have improved every year of your career.
It's something I do need to get better at, is that extending plays and, kind of making things happen when there isn't anything there. I'll always kind of be trying to improve in that aspect. But I think, in the off season, my workouts and trying to get my body as comfortable as possible with those movements, so that I don't feel, like a fish out of water when I start to tuck the ball and run, but being ready to move quickly. I understand that, I'm in the NFL because of the ability to throw from the pocket, throw with accuracy, make quick decisions, do all that. So that's important. But certainly when you can make something happen when things break down, it can make a major difference in the outcome of a game. So I'm getting better at it. I think I have showed up the last couple of years on tape with more of those types of plays, but I think there's still a lot more to go.
Yeah, and I feel those plays are, real momentum shifters for the team. And you can see kind of the guys, rally around you when you do something with your feet.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I remember because, you mentioned, halfway through your fourth year, and that was your first full year as a starter, that you liked that game. I remember that comeback versus Tampa. And after that, I believe you had like a 19 touchdown, 2 interception ratio, and you made the playoffs and were on a hot streak. Do you think something clicked there? That kind of set off your career to, be one of the most consistent, Pro Bowl quarterbacks in the league?
It is funny because we were down 24-0 in that game, and things were not going well. And then suddenly it flipped. And like you said, suddenly was playing at a much higher level. We were winning. We won the division that year. And so something clicked. It's hard for me to point to why or what it was, what changed. I was really doing everything the same. My habits didn't change much. The way I played the game didn't change much, but certainly the outcomes changed. And so that was really a relief. But if anything, kind of showed me that my habits up to that point were sound. And just because we weren't breaking through, we weren't getting those inches, it didn't mean that I was too far off target. And so I guess you keep playing long enough, it turns and things start falling your way. And, I believe that can happen again up here in the future.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in just, trusting your process. And if you're doing things the right way, they'll sort of, break your way. And do you think that we'll see more of that, fiery Kirk this year? Because you have personality, and, people who don't follow you super closely, might think that you're mild mannered, but, you got some fire in you. Do you think, we'll see a more animated Kirk Cousins this year?
I hope so. I think it's something my teammates feed off of. I think that, they encourage it, and it's just got to be natural. I'm not going to force it, but I see no reason why it shouldn't come out of me more often. And as people say, be the you like that guy. So I've got the green light to do it. So hopefully it's something that, we can have a lot of those kind of moments up ahead.
Yeah. I don't want to keep you too long. I know you're super busy. I just have 2 more questions.
Sure, no problem. You're not rushing me.
No. So just getting back, talk about your teammates. There was a report, Ben Lieber talked about on his podcast that you brought the team together after the year, and you had, a meeting with a lot of key players, and they came away saying, Kirk's our dog. I know what happens in the locker room stays in the locker room, but can you just speak to, an approach you're taking, or just kind of the mood and, kind of where you see, yourself as a vocal leader and just like the team morale going forward?
Well, I've always felt we have a really good locker room in Minnesota. I've just never felt that there are players who aren't, pulling the same direction. I feel like we've always had hardworking players. I think our coaches have always said that it's just a great group of people that play hard and want to do things the right way. And so that's a huge first step, to get the right kind of people on board. I do think for me going into year 11 now, there is a level of leadership that you go to that maybe you don't have in your first or second year starting, because you just don't have the skins on the wall and that experience. But once you try to get there and you develop that, and you've been around the block a few times, it does kind of give you that license to lead at a different level where you can take it up a notch. And I think that's what I'll certainly try to do going forward.
Yeah. And I listened to you on Adam Thielen's show, and you said you always wanted to work to your potential, and, you were overlooked. You said you only got one offer from a Power 5 school, Michigan State. If someone told you, let's say 15 years ago, that you are going to be a multi-time Pro Bowl quarterback, face of a franchise, who you are now, did you see that in you? Did you feel that would happen, or do you even kind of surprise yourself sometimes?
Well, learning your story before we started recording this interview and kind of hearing your background, it sounds like you knew more about my future when you were only 12 years old than I knew. Because to answer your question, no, I believed it, it was a dream. It was something I would have loved to be a part of, wanted to be able to do, but I don't know that I really saw it as a goal. I don't know that I saw it being actually attainable. And there's still so much more out there to go attain. But it sounds like when you evaluated the tape when I was coming out from Michigan State and you kind of looked around at the landscape, you thought I had a pretty high ceiling, and you weren't afraid to tell people as a 12-year-old. And I guess time has kind of given some credibility to that opinion that you took, but there's still more out there to get. So I appreciate your belief in me, probably more than even I had in myself at the time. But no, there's many days where I paused, getting invited to go to a Pro Bowl this past offseason, and just being able to, stop for a moment and take stock of that and say, okay, to get to go to a Pro Bowl is an unbelievable dream come true that I never thought was possible. And for that to have been my third, and to be able to have a healthy season to get there, it's just so many moments where you say, if I'm in a dream, don't wake me up, because this is incredible. And now it's about, next steps, and, now we got to win and win big and get to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. And so that's where we're trying to get to, and trying to all get the pieces we need to be able to do that. But, it's certainly out there, and we've got to go get it.
My friends won't stand me when you win a Super Bowl.
There you go.
I went to an all boys Catholic school, and this is before you were the starter. I had to get a, custom knockoff, like custom jersey with your name. They weren't selling it. And we had dress down day like every month, and I would wear your jersey, that Friday every month, and they'd be, who is that? And I'm like, he's the next Tom Brady. I'm not kidding. So maybe, I mean, I'm a little bit nuts. I'm a little bit out there, but yeah, I've always,
Well,
seen
I'll tell you, that
seen
was
it.
why I wanted to hop on the Zoom call, because I just I got wind of the way you followed me, the deep dives you'll do statistically to try to not just go off opinion, but truly look at facts, and then even to hear your story now of your background of how young you were and what you did and the hard work you do to kind of really study it and try to really know it. I just wanted to honor you by coming on here and saying, hey, it is a very humbling thing to have someone like yourself in my corner and to have been in my corner for so long. And even before I was playing a lot, it's unbelievable. So I just want to say thank you. And hopefully by being on here is a small way to
Yeah,
say thank you. And
yeah, I can't
hopefully,
thank you enough.
hopefully we can keep in touch moving forward. And uh, yeah, I think there's, hopefully both of us can be celebrating up ahead. Hopefully I can give you a lot more ammo to defend your case.
Oh yeah, I'll have the clips. I got more spreadsheets. I just made a Twitter because I had a job in government where I couldn't tweet. So now that I'm not working in government anymore, I can have Twitter. But I've been doing this like literally since I was like 10 years old. So I have plenty of ammo. Whatever you need.
Well, it sounds like if you don't want to see Kirk Cousins information, then you probably shouldn't follow Joe Spinoza, because if you follow Joe Spinoza, you're going to get inundated with that information.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. This has been like a dream come true. Like I said, I've been following you for so long.
Well, I'm sorry.